morning, good afternoon, good evening. Zimbabwe is earning a reputation when it comes to election, particularly. We are becoming the devil incarnate of the Sadc region. Zimbabwe was involved in the election rigging in Mozambique. We've seen videos of Zimbabweans who have got Mozambican ID and they did vote in that election. And now it looks like Zimbabweans were also heavily involved in Namibia. And it is no surprise at all that the people of Namibia are up in arms against it. Let's just listen to this video clip.
Of the ruling party, and it will create a lot of chaos. You see already those factions that are there. So it's easier to enjoy these funny things at our country. We ought to say, all of us, whether you are SWAPO, whether you are what, we ought to say that you can even have Zanu PF people on Twitter, on Facebook, and everywhere who are saying, yeah, this is what is happening. The Zanu PF are the one who are celebrating. Yeah, Netumbo is ahead. SWAPO people, some of them are quiet. But it's Zanu PF that is celebrating. Why is Zanu PF celebrating? So after they printed the ballot, in exchange of that 2.11 million, what do they want in exchange? And we are warning those SWAPO people. One day they would remember this warning. That it is fine to think that you have a strategy to rig the election. You think you have a strategy to use ZANU PF. And even the ECA, you can be there sitting as commissioner, you can be there sitting as CEO. But remember, you have given birth in this country. Remember, you have given birth, you have children in this country. One day you are going to be so old. You are going to be so old, you would not be able to do anything. You are going to be in your 70s, you are going to be in your 90s. And your country is just going to be such a mess. Because it's a seed that you have planted. ZANU PF is going to integrate themselves in our intelligence system. ZANU PF is going to integrate themselves in our civil society. ZANU PF is going to integrate themselves in our business sector. It's going to integrate themselves in all facets of society. And I can guarantee you this. When those factions continue to fight and SWAPO loses power, ZANU PF will run to the nearest available political party. They will run to the nearest available political party. That is why, even in South Africa, ZANU PF began, when there was those xenophobic attacks, ZANU PF began supporting certain political parties in South Africa.
ZANU PF is becoming a problem here, Ben.
Good day to you. Good day to our viewers. What I can say is ZANU PF is prepared to burn everything, including Sadc, to the ground, just for them to enjoy absolute power. We said this during the South African election, that, Zimbabwe, ZANU PF in particular, is meddling in other countries' affairs. And we have seen it, they have spread their wings. And now, Mozambique, they tried it in Botswana. Lucky Botswana stood firm. Now here they are in Namibia. The audacity to do what they are doing comes from years and years of turning a blind eye. And now the rot has set. And we have a problem, not only in Zimbabwe, but in Sadc, because of ZANU PF.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. I think if we want to look at the genesis of ZANU PF, we have to go back to 1980. Zanu PF is the one party that never had any intention at all of making sure that the ordinary Zimbabwean enjoyed their basic freedoms and basic human rights as the election, as the whole basis for independence. ZANU PF blatantly disregarded all those things in pursuit of its own agenda of absolute power. And this is at the heart of it. And I think this cartoon encapsulates that whole concept. This is a regime that did not even hesitate chopping off the legs of its ordinary people. It wasn't even bothered. And then he steps in with a wheelchair and be the benevolent benefactor, where the people are reduced to thanking the regime for its generosity. ZANU PF has ruled Zimbabwe with an iron fist. And I think the tragedy here is that the regime is now trying to spread its influence in the rest of Sadc. And I think the citizens of Sadc have got every reason to be concerned. If the regime can do this to its own people, the regime will not hesitate doing the same thing to the people of Namibia, Mozambique, etc., etc., because it is desperate to hang on to power and it needs friends in those countries. It will help SWAPO rig the elections as long as it is in ZANU PF's interest for SWAPO to stay in power. That is the tragedy of Zimbabwe. I think the other problem we have got to mention here is the opposition. Why the opposition have been so totally ineffective is an issue that we cannot turn a blind eye to. I don't know whether you'd want to address that problem, Ben.
You know, when we look at the opposition in Zimbabwe, I think it's, you know, we can best describe them as wolves in sheep's clothing. They are one and the same. Look, you have a situation where ZANU PF rigs elections each and every time. And you have an opposition that will tell you we will win those rigged elections each and every time. And the day after, they pretend to cry with us. A few days in it, they are being sworn into office, and it's business as usual. We have to address that. Why, you know, why is it that they are always, you know, willing participants and never, you know, speaking out before, you know, the whole process has happened? And let me draw your attention to say, The reason why we had an opposition is not, to challenge Zanu PF for elections. No. The main reason we had and the formation of MDC, the Movement for Democratic Change, was to bring about change. What change, if not reforms? And up to this day, we don't have any of those. They have since, pushed that agenda aside, the mandate they had. Now they are a political party wanting, seats, office at all costs. So you will find the opposition will do anything to have, a piece of the pie and forget all about, the people, forget all about their mandate, what they started. So in short, we really don't have an opposition. Zimbabwe hasn't got an opposition. It's got, what we have is Zanu's partner in crime, where they participate, share the spoils of war, and business as usual. And then you and me are just like that, that man you showed on the picture. They chopped off his limbs and then they bought him a wheelchair. That is what they're doing. They cry with us and then we worship them, in the end. They will, they will help us. They will do things for us. But who chopped off your legs? That is the question.
I think it is depressing where we are as a nation. We cannot deny that Zanu PF rigged the last elections. They did. But what made it so difficult for us as a people to complain or to protest is that we had participated in those elections because we believed the MDC and Triple C leaders' idiotic lies that we could win rigged elections. Zimbabweans, instead of fighting to make sure that elections are free, fair, and credible from the word go, they went into elections knowing the process is flawed, but because they believed the opposition, that the opposition would win rigged elections. And that has been at the heart of our failure. It is a pity that we have got leaders like Mnangagwa who insisted, for instance, that last year's elections were free, fair, and credible, and he didn't care what anybody else said. Here is Mnangagwa boasting about that very issue.
Kana vakatuka ZANU-PF kana ndonyanyisa kufara kuita zvakanaka. Ukavona vavengi vakwashi kurumbidzwa nekuchikanganisa. Ukavona vachiti ZANU-PF yakaipa farai. You are doing correct things for your country. Home takaita elections edu kuna vamwe vaitaura zvisina musoro zvikanzi maelection anofamba zvakanaka ndezvavo.
At the heart of our problem. When Mnangagwa said those who said the elections were not free, fair, and credible, the people themselves would have stood up and said, no, us Zimbabweans are concerned about these rigged elections. But they could not do that because they had gone into those elections knowing that Zanu-PF was rigging. and they had believed the opposition had, as Shamisa put it, plugged all the vote rigging loopholes, when in reality, it was clear that he had not done any of that stuff. Zanu-PF blatantly rigged the elections, confident that millions of Zimbabweans would participate in those flawed elections to give the process legitimacy. This has been at the heart of our problem. And now Zanu-PF has grown to the point where it really does dominate the Zimbabwe political scene completely. And now it is seeking to spread its wings in neighboring countries. And those countries have got good reason to express their concern. And I hope that the people of Mozambique and the people of Namibia who stood firm and restore the rule of law in their respective countries so that there are free, fair, and credible elections. And let Zimbabwe, Zanu-PF, go back to Zimbabwe. And we in Zimbabwe, we have got to sort out our own problem. I hope this anger that is being shown by some of our neighbors is not going to be visited with ordinary Zimbabweans. Because like it or not, Zimbabweans have left the country in their millions, and they are all over the region and beyond. And Zanu-PF has made life hell for Zimbabweans in Zimbabwe, and now with its devilish intentions, it's making life hell for Zimbabweans outside Zimbabwe. I would like to assure our friends in Mozambique, Namibia, that the ordinary Zimbabweans have absolutely nothing to do with Zanu-PF devilish activities. The people of Zimbabwe would as much like to see elections in Mozambique, elections in Namibia, and any other part of the region free, fair, and credible. Because we know that that will be good for the stability and prosperity of those respective countries. But clearly that is not Zanu-PF's intention. And they should not punish the ordinary people because of what Zanu-PF is doing. That would be my word on this issue. Thank you very much, Ben. Do you want to give your last remarks?
Thank you. In closing, I would want to say, sadly, it has taken Zimbabweans a long time to realize that we do not have a competent opposition. What we have as an opposition is a Zanu body. They are working in cahoots together. I mean, the evidence is clear. Look at Mozambique when the elections were rigged. Nobody took up seats. Everybody was up in arms, united as a force. Give another example, Namibia. They are all united as an opposition, different mandates, different, ideas, but they have come for a common purpose, which is to save their countries from Zanu's rot. But unfortunately, our so-called opposition, they are quick to get up their seats, quick to get into office, and forget about the rigging. And here we are in a total mess. No opposition to talk about right now. Elections 2028 are probably going to be rigged, and the same opposition will participate, and we will be willing participants. We have to realize, uh, the only person that can get us out of this mess is you and I. Forget about this opposition, or so-called opposition, if I may put it rightly. They are not for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben. I would like to underline what Ben was saying there. Whether we like to admit it or not, the truth of the matter is Chamisa is on sabbatical. And when he comes out, he'll be telling Zimbabweans that he is going to win the 2028 elections. He has strategies of winning rigged elections. And Zimbabweans will believe him in their millions and participate in those flawed elections as they did in 2023. This is at the heart of our problem. As long as Zimbabweans participate in these flawed elections in their millions, the idea that you can somehow go on the streets and protest ZANU-PF rigged elections is naive, to say the least. Because in this case here, the argument is, if you believe the elections are flawed, why do you keep on participating? Particularly in the case of Zimbabwe, when Sadc, the AU, reported last year that those elections are flawed. And like Ben has correctly pointed out, the opposition, even when they read Sadc and the AU report, still went ahead and took up their seats, their gravy train seats, giving the process credibility. We have got a problem. The problem is, yes, it's ZANU-PF, but also the opposition, and also the electorate. We are a naive and gullible lot, and that has got to change. Thank you very much, Ben, and those of you who were able to join us today, thank you again, and I hope we'll see you tomorrow, 6 o'clock UK time, or 8 o'clock Zimbabwean time. Good night.
Good night.